Of all the mission types in Warframe, spy missions are probably the hardest to learn ad hoc. It's not as simple as don't let point X take Y amount of damage or kill all enemies. And most activities in Warframe that aren't relatively easy to learn organically are also optional. Spy missions, it's safe to at least argue, are not as optional. They appear in Syndicate, Sortie, and Star Chart clearing missions, and often. They're also the source for the Ivara Warframe parts, plus if you're playing solo, they're excellent sources for affinity. If you find yourself being carried through these all the time, I think it's time we fix that, because they're fun and they can be relaxing once you're used to them. So to put it simply, your goal is to infiltrate 3 data vaults found throughout the map, and then extract the data within them before the data is destroyed. Let's break that down though. First, at the outset of the mission, there's no time limit. As long as you remain undetected, you'll have all the time you need. In fact, you can even be detected outside of the data vault perimeter without invoking this time limit. So the security systems within the data vault, or the NPCs within it, those have to detect you before the time limit sets in. So that begs the question then, what is the data vault exactly? While Warframe maps use tile sets, which are a random arrangement of compatible rooms that then are put together to create an overall map, data vaults are not so random. They come in several different configurations, but those configurations are consistent. This means that after a bit of practice, you'll eventually memorize each data vault and how to infiltrate it easily, even if you don't know exactly which data vaults you're going to be encountering throughout this mission. Stuffed tight past all the security measures, you'll find a single console to hack, which, upon completing, will give you the data for that vault. Once you have the data, you can feel free to raise hell in that vault, nobody cares. Completion of a hack causes a huge affinity burst, and that's usually pretty great. However, if your teammates are wearing weapons that have affinity procs, like Syndicate weapons, understand that this might cause the weapon to send out an AoE burst of damage. So if they're in a data vault still, and still in the process of getting the data, and then this AoE burst gets set off without killing everything, it can cause alarms to go off. If you raise the alarms within the vault, note that you haven't failed just yet. Depending on the difficulty of the mission, you'll still have somewhere between 30 to 50 seconds to ham your way to the console and get the data. If all 3 vaults are cleared with alarms raised, but all 3 are still successful, the mission will turn into an exterminate mission before you can finally complete it. If a Syndicate death squad tries to attack you while you're in the data vault, Warframe is nice enough to add a hefty delay to their attack after the screen flicker. So this way a skilled player can retrieve the data before the spawns actually show up. If you fail a hack anywhere within a data vault, that'll cause the alarms to go off. And successfully hacking all 3 vaults while being completely undetected will triple your affinity bonus. Some general tips that I found, plus some from the wiki for completing spy in general. If another player is already in a data vault and they're undetected, it's rarely a good idea to go in to help them. You're just adding another layer of risk for detection. If you're new to spy missions and you find yourself in there with pugs that do know what they're doing, it's really common for people to get carried in here. It'll benefit both parties if you just accept their charities, so whatever you do, don't get underfoot, just stand back. Make sure that while you hack consoles at or inside the data vault, you aren't in a squirrely position, because odd positioning runs the risk of consoles randomly kicking you off and setting off the alarm. Just stand square with the console always before hacking. Air support charges from the Lisette can be called in when you're in a pinch. They'll pause all the timers and disable alarm systems while the beacon's active. There's also the Oloromoa companion from Fortuna with the security override precept, which can help spy missions along sometimes. However, as you get quicker at spy missions, you'll probably find yourself waiting on him too much. Not to mention, he can also hack the MOA dispensers, and so you may not want those little companions running around with you. But that's pretty rare, and the only other pet that I can think of even bringing for any reason, for benefit, would be the Smita Kavat, because of the small chance that you'll have the Smita buff during that huge affinity burst, and that is pretty nice when that does happen. But all in all, seems to me that this is the best companion for it. Someone might argue Shade, that's funny. Warframe choices for spy. This list can get pretty long depending on the specificity that we want to get into. That's right, I said specificity. For now, we'll stick to the general stuff. Loki gets a lot of use in spies because he has a duration-based stealth mechanic skill called invisibility, and it's easy to manage while you're trying to be fast. Plus he has the hushed invisibility augment mod, which allows him to use any weapons he wants in silence, while invisible. Note that you'll still hear the weapon yourself with that mod on, but enemies won't. He also has 2 skills called Decoy and Switch Teleport, which are great for bypassing obstacles. He can plant a decoy at his destination and then teleport to it. Ivara, another stealth-heavy frame, has a different approach. She has a tendency to be a bit more consistent and easy for spy missions, but at the expense of being slower. Prowl is her number 3 channeled stealth ability, meaning that it'll affect your energy gain, and it can be tuned to last a lot longer than Loki's invisibility. She can also use sleep arrows to put enemies to sleep, she can use noise arrows to distract them, or she can use dash wire arrow, which allows her to kind of just go wherever she wants across the map. It gets her past a lot of these obstacles that other Warframes struggle with. With the Infiltrate Augment mod, she can just walk or drop right through any lasers and these security systems undetected, which is really cheese. Ash usually has to be a lot more diligent than other frames with stealth, because his is smokescreen and it doesn't last very long. But if he's played a bit more covertly offensive, he can do well. With shurikens, he can silently take out cameras, and he can use teleport to bypass lasers. Wukong can use Cloudwalker for stealth, I guess. And for a non-invisibility approach, finally, we have Limbo. Now, ahead of time, let me say, I would practice him solo, and then I'm going to leave it up to you whether you want to do this in a group, but I advise against it. I see him as being really good for doing spies solo, though. So let me explain that. Cataclysm will silently blow up cameras within its dome, so you can do it through walls and stuff. Any killing that you do in the rift by banishing enemies is considered silent. And banished targets can't interact with consoles or raise alarms. The real question to ask, though, is how Limbo's going to hack consoles to get the data. Obviously, you can carefully manage your rift usage and banish usage and just juggle it so that you can do it. Or there's a spoiler method, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I'm going to finish the video before I do that. I'll let you know before I get to that spoiler, so that those of you who are concerned about it will get off, and I'll tell you what constitutes the spoiler, okay? With that said, many details about spy missions are predicated upon which planet or faction the mission pits you against. A spy mission on a Corpus map is going to be a lot different from a spy mission on a Grineer Kuva Fortress map, for example. So this mechanic affects which security systems you'll be dealing with, how you hack the consoles, which NPCs will be involved, and the rewards that you'll get, amongst other things. These differences are significant enough that I'll be creating a separate video based on each mission type, whether that's Corpus, Grineer, or the special ones, Kuva Fortress, which is Grineer, Lua, Orokin, Kinda Corpus, and then Sharkwing, which is usually Grineer as well. Also note that in these videos, I'm going to discuss the best routes that you can take for doing the spy mission with any Warframe, because if you know the right paths, you can actually do these missions with any Warframe that you want. So I'm going to give you a second. If you haven't done Second Dream or War Within, and you are worried about spoilers, you probably want to shut it off now. Alright. Operators. They're an always available utility for handling spy missions. They inherently come with a stealth, with crouching into void mode, and they can always use void dash to go through lasers. If you're not using your toggle crouch for void mode, that's actually fine. When you get to the console, and then you've clicked on it, if you let go, you won't leave stealth. That's a small little perk from DE. And since operators are unaffected by Limbo's banish or rift, you can actually hack the console without monkeying around with your planes of existence. That reminds me of high school. Anyway, that's it. Take care, guys, and don't let your grandma bite you.